Hello there and welcome to another Döhle Yacht Coffee Break. My name is Ben Geary, I'm the Fleet Statutory Manager here at Döhle, and today I'm joined by Valerio, Döhle and Engel from Lloyd'S Register.
Hi there.
What I want to do is just jump straight into today's subject, which is basically stored energy within recreational toys. And today, what we want to try and do with LR is just bring awareness around some of the safety aspects, potential dangers there are with now the amount of recreational toys that exist on the market. So, Engel, over to you.
Well, thank you, Ben. And first and foremost, I think, very valuable break we're having here in order to discuss these very important aspects and to bring it back to sort of reality. Everybody nowadays is talking about the digital world. We're entering into decarbonization, autonomous shipping, you name it. And I think it's good to talk about some real life experiences which we are seeing in the industry and trying to address it in order to make sure that that this market remains attractive for those wanting to enjoy it. What we have seen, talking about electrical powered toys, is that there's been an increase, a significant increase in the number of fires on board of yachts, and some of the investigations which have taken place and have been carried out also by the flag states have demonstrated that some of these fires originated within either the electrical toys or the charging system or process of charging. And that's something which really needs to be addressed, and people need to be made aware of the dangers of hybrid electrical powered toys. And no one better placed than Valerio, who's here today as well, who goes on board of the yachts on a day-to-day schedule and witnesses some of the products being bought and being used and being charged. So it'd be interesting to hear from Valerio, of course, what happens in the real world.
Valerio, it's a good point to bring you in on. Engel and I and you, Valerio, we've all been involved in these big hazard meetings when, like LR's rules apply, where you're looking at stored energy, and everyone associates that with a much bigger product. When we're looking at the big yachts and we're now looking at hybrid propulsion, etc. And I think what's often forgotten, especially on the older vessels, is the amount of these recreational toys that are using stored energy. And I think so. What are you seeing? What are some of the concerns that you and LR have as a wider group with this?
Yeah, that's correct, Ben. And as Engel said, we've seen a number of incidents happening on the in-service unit that have been attributed to stored energy toys or smaller units. Yeah. That are normally off-the-shelf units that are purchased as part of the outfitting and the park of toys that the yacht has available for the guests on board. So basically, we are prepared, and although we do not have prescriptive requirements to evaluate certain risk and assess the situation and make sure the installation is still safe when it comes to a major installation like an hybrid propulsion, a big battery bank installed as part of the fixed installation of the boat. And what is happening at the moment on many design boards or a kickoff meeting of new build process, they're like classification society, flag state, owner representative, they are busy outlining all these risks and making sure they are like counterbalanced by either passive or active arrangements. The biggest risk we have at the moment, I do see while I visit vessels for the periodical surveys, are on the older units that are not being designed with these risks in mind. And since the war develops and now those units are available, they are just brought on board and integrated into the installation of the boat, maybe bypassing that risk assessment and that safety balance process. They make sure that those risks are mitigated. So we always stimulate the crew or whoever has the decision-making power to make the due diligence to select a suitable product by reading the instruction, the safety precaution recommendation, and understanding what are the capabilities of the lazarettes, the garage spaces, or any other storage space that will be designated on board, and to take the counteractions in order to mitigate those risks. We're always available to talk about. Indeed, we have plenty of discussion about that. And our message at the moment is to be aware that there are some risks involved with stored energy, with the recharge of the Lion batteries, and the potential fire hazard that they might create when placed on board.
And I think that's key, isn't it? I mean, you know, you said something there which is kind of important, I think, for the yacht world, is that there's no prescriptive rules. So at the moment, I know LR and other class societies, you know, we're having rule notations coming in for the hybrid of let's say the mothership, but you know, there's nothing for people to kind of point to when we're looking at the recreational toy side. But I think it's key what you said. I think a lot of it is, you know, talk to you guys as a class, you know, all the flags. You guys have got the experience, you know, whether it's the larger vessels or the smaller vessels. And I think if people are unsure, it's always better to ask before you go ahead and purchase the equipment. You know, the owner's got an expectation of those toys, but I think, you know, as you highlighted, Valerio, you know, some of the key questions are the installation, how the power units are stored, where the power units are stored, the emergency cut-offs for those power units, ventilation, all those kind of things, where that's kind of your bread and butter. So even though it's not a rule to follow, because we all know the rules are there to be the minimum that we follow, it is something that you guys, you know, are trying to promote in the fact that just come and talk to you. You know, if you're unsure and your guy wants, you know, we're now seeing electric jet skis, if he wants 3 electric jet skis employed on his boat that's 20 years old, come and talk to you guys on how that works.
In addition to that, it's really a case-by-case situation, you know, in which, you know, you can go from the smaller unit, sub 500, you know, to a larger unit where there is designated space that actually being designed in order to mitigate risk, control ventilation, structural fire protection, active firefighting arrangement. So you really need to be careful, you know, especially on the smaller, older units.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I think you put it very eloquently in a recent article you wrote, Valerio, whereby if a yacht owner or a captain or a management company decides to install a jerry can full of petrol on board of their yacht, they will be quite careful as to its location, possibility in terms of ignition, ventilation, making sure there is no fire or heat sources nearby, focus on the gases which it can emit, so there's a lot of focus on it. But for one reason or another, that same focus isn't always there when we're talking about sort of electrically powered toys. But these, and it does require a certain risk assessment. Perhaps you don't have to go to the full extent of a full-blown, massive, long-lasting risk assessment, but some sort of risk assessment needs to be carried out. And again, you know, we urge everybody to read the safety leaflets very carefully, and also, you know, be careful. Some of this, it's not just a question of explosion or of fire. Some of these electrical toys, or at least the electrical power sources, can actually produce toxic and hazardous gases. Yeah. You need to be extremely careful. You need to be aware of it.
And also the firefighting activities needs to be tailor-made, you know, for this type of fires. So it's not something you deal with like you know, a fire you would have on board from combustible material or wood. You know, it's a specific type of firefighting action. So also let's say the operational side and the readiness of the crew needs to take that into consideration in order to have an effective approach to an eventual emergency situation.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, guys, thank you very much for your time today. Guy, that brings us to the kind of end of the coffee break today. Hopefully it's been useful for just raising awareness. We're going to see more and more of these recreational toys using electrical power, and no one is asking that the industry stops using them. That's going to happen. We're going to move forward, and the more and more of these toys are going to exist. I think what we need is just take a moment before you go and purchase. Have a look at the data sheets, have a look at the safety sheets on those units, have a look at the spaces of which they're going into, and look and talk to the class and flag. These guys have a huge knowledge, so do the yacht management companies as well. Come and talk to people before you go and purchase that equipment, so we can look at suitable ways of installing them and protecting them. Hopefully you found this information useful. As always, mine and these guys' details will be at the end of the coffee break, and thank you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.